Hey y'all, it's been a while and I think it's time for an art haul. So a package from Blick came in for me today. I am getting ready for some of my fall classes. I'm getting ready for inking in October, and there's just also some consumables that I tend to go through very quickly as a watercolor artist and illustrator. So I thought I would share what I ordered with you guys today. We're gonna start in here in my great room to unbox them because it is a pretty large box, and then we will head on over to the studio to take a look at everything. If you love art supplies, I have two new prints out. They're both very cute. I really wanted to share them with you guys. I have my art supply print because honestly, what artist doesn't love art that is about being an artist? And I also have a very cute sewing supply print. These prints are 9x12. They are ready to frame, or you can use, and I know this is backlit and I am so sorry, you can use these magnetic frames. So they are super easy to put up, and they're lightweight enough that you can even use a suction cup to put them on your windows like I've done here. You can find these in the Natto shop at nattosoup.com/shop. I'll make sure to put a link in the description for you guys. And if you guys enjoy these too, I would love to do knitting prints and crochet prints and just explore a variety of different arts and crafts and honor them with my own art. Speaking of, this October, I am doing an art challenge where I am exploring a wide variety of arts, crafts, and music with my Little Artist series. So if you enjoy my art, make sure you are following me over on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and of course here on YouTube, because I am going to hopefully, although no promises, be sharing an inked piece of art every day of October. So speaking of sharing art, making art, and October, let's go ahead and get into our Blick box. Do you know how carefully I had to say that? I have been like misspeaking and word mushing all over the place. My Sjogren's has been acting up. It plus ADHD is not a great combo, not at all. So I'm kind of proud that I was able to say that. So generally when I am shopping for art supplies, I shop at a variety of places. I have a local brick and mortar art supply store, David's Art Center here in Metairie, Louisiana. I also like to shop with St. Louis Art Supply. They always have unusual goodies. So Blick is by far not the only site I shop with. And since this is not a sponsored video, spoiler, none of my videos are sponsored videos. I purchased all of this out of pocket. I can say what I like. Blick has acquired McPherson's, which used to be one of the largest distributors of art supplies in the US. Pretty much almost any brand you can think of, they were carrying it. So now there is the potential for Blick to have a monopoly over art supplies here in the US. So do not take me purchasing things from Blick as an endorsement of Blick. It's just that I live in Louisiana. We have increasingly narrow options for art supplies, and if I'm looking for something particular or if I'm looking for variety and I need it sooner rather than later, my local art supply will order things if we request them, but that does take time to come in, and sometimes I just don't have that kind of time to play with. So this is not an endorsement of Blick. I am in no way, shape, or form affiliated with them. I am just a small business and a small artist trying to do the best she can while also teaching classes. And also as a teacher, while I don't apply for their teacher's discount because they need a formal teacher's ID for that, and I'm a gig teacher, we don't exist. But my local brick and mortar store does give me a teacher's discount, which is nice. Anyway, they do have bulk pricing on some things. So as a teacher who is a gig teacher, it does make it a little bit more affordable. So this is kind of a combination of several things. I actually ordered these things right before I found out my library system was going to have to cancel my second set of classes for the month. So some of these were supplies that I was hoping to use for both of those classes, and that's no longer on the table. times are hard for artists right now. So they're hard for everyone, for real. But like, they're hard for artists right now, and they've been hard for artists for a really long time. The pandemic was not kind to any of us, and a lot of us ended up developing like pretty debilitating chronic pain and autoimmune issues over the years. So like, if you can, if there's an artist you enjoy, it doesn't have to be me, and you like their art, now is a wonderful time to purchase some of their art, or to purchase some of their prints, or to purchase one of their books, or to support them on Patreon, or just tell them, hi, your work means so much to me, I love you. Anything right now is helpful. So I want to get back into inking with a nib. So a lot of this is going to be traditional inking focused, because that's an interest I have, and I'm also teaching a class, just one class now, supposed to be two, just one class now, in October on traditional inking methods. So picked up one of my favorite inks, Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star Matte ink. I also picked up, because I thought I was teaching two classes of it, a big bottle of Blick Black Cat Waterproof India ink. I also picked up I have a lot of nib holders. As a teaching artist, I have accrued a lot of purchased a lot of nib holders over the years. I say accrued, like somebody donated them to me. No, I've purchased a lot of nib holders over the years for my class, but I always seem to be kind of short. So I bought some inexpensive Speedball. These are going to be for G-nibs. That's what I'm going to focus on with them, just because crow quills can be very finicky. And if I'm teaching a class how to do crow quill, I just don't have that kind of time in an hour and a half. So I figured G-nibs are easier for me, might be easier for them. This is a big old box of the Speedball nib holders. If you are interested in traditional inking techniques, I have so many tutorials here on the channel on how to do that. I may also generate a new tutorial to help me prepare for the class that I'm teaching in October. So if you're interested in traditional inking methods, I got you, friend. Comic artist here, went to SCAD, have an MFA, learned how to ink. I also picked up some of the Pebeo Colorex markers. These are a watercolor marker, you know, because from time to time, I do like to play around with and explore watercolor markers. I've also been seeing a lot of tutorials and videos on people doing like faux stained glass, and I think that looks really fun, and that's definitely something I would be interested in playing around with. I was kind of hoping to pitch that as a class, but given the budget cuts in my home parishes are like counties here in Louisiana, I don't know that they would be able to justify doing it for just one class. I picked up, so you guys know I like to look at, talk about, review, and learn from other artists. I think that's really important. As an artist, you are always learning and picking up new skills, and a great way to do that is from other artists. In fact, I have a whole Easily Influenced series where I read the books by other artists, and I review those supplies by other artists, and I let you know if they're helpful, useful, and informative, and if they're worth your money. So I picked up the Emily Lex Animals Watercolor Workbook because I've been kind of into the idea of like paint along stuff that, so I need to edit it as of recording this, but I recently finished up my review of the Rebel Unicorns book and her watercolor palette. And I really enjoy when watercolor kits, watercolor instruction comes with like templates or line arts or printables. And it's not because I can't draw, because I can draw. It's because I also teach, and I know how many of my students are much more comfortable if they're working from a template, if they're working from a graphite transfer, if they're working from somebody else's line art first, so they can kind of practice those skills before they have to put themselves to the test of drawing things, if that makes sense. Like, I understand where they're coming from because it takes a lot of that edge off. It makes it more approachable. It makes it more like play instead of something you have to really sit and focus on. And it allows you to focus on the watercolor techniques instead. So I've been really kind of into that idea, and I think it's really cool. So I've been wanting to talk about more of those kind of watercolor books here on the channel. So I've definitely talked about books that have templates in the back of them. I have talked about books, a recent book, the Rebel Unicorn one, that actually has printouts on watercolor paper that you can paint along. I've talked about a bunch of watercolor kits here on the channel. And I also did a live stream recently where we were playing around in this really neat Korean watercolor coloring book that has like a resist technique to it. So I've been playing around with that more just to try and make watercolor more accessible for even more people. So, a lot of this, like I said, is kind of inking focused. So I like how I ordered, this is a Brause rose nib because I actually really like these. And I have like 4 of them and I wanted one more. I ordered, what is this? This is the Tom Studio stuff. Some of this is, the Kakimori metal nib. This has been in and out of my cart for more than a year now. We're gonna take a look at this over at the table. The Lumos full tip set, so that actually goes with the Lumos infinitely refillable creative pin. And this could be a brush pin or a fine liner that is refillable. It's by Tom Studio, and I think it's really mostly meant to go with fountain pen ink, which I have so much fountain pen ink, so that should work out. I also have a Shuttle nib, which seems similar to the Kakimori nib. Who makes these? Colorverse. So the fountain pen people. So there's a lot in here today that's like by fountain pen people or for use with fountain pen inks or very fountain pen adjacent. So hi fountain pen friends, I need to clean out all my fountain pens and re-ink them and kind of get back into that. They have been sitting in storage for a really long time. I think most of them were cleaned before I moved, but I don't remember because I moved in the middle of a hurricane. And cleaning my fountain pens was not top of my priority then. I also finally got a Sailor Hocoro. This is a type of dip pen, but it's kind of like a fountain pen too, so I'm really excited about playing around with this. If you remember me from my fountain pen days, I'm a flexi nib kind of girl, inking. So I'm really interested in pens that offer those kind of properties, but are more portable. I've talked about that a lot here on the channel over the years. And since I've developed a lot of hand health issues since my Sjogren's diagnosis, and even before my Sjogren's diagnosis, I've always had arthralgia and arthritis. Like since I was like a child, I've had arthritis. Yes, I am seeing multiple doctors. You do not need to ask. I appreciate it. Yes, I am follow all of the Sjogren's advice. I have to caveat that because when I tell people I have these things, they always want to offer me health advice from the top of Google. And it's very sweet and I do appreciate your concern, but like I am seeing doctors. I am trying to take care of myself. That's why I'm not doing as much art. I'm not teaching as much. I just can't do as much anymore. That's to protect my own health. I miss doing live streams with you guys, but being able to turn that on and be able to draw for 2 hours is hard these days. 2 hours at one stretch without taking significant breaks. Anyway, I also have the Tom's Studio. Which one are you? The Studio fountain pen. That's right, because this is a flexi nib one. So again, I'm looking for ways that I can bring my love of dip pens and using dip pens and that kind of traditional slow inking back into my process, but in a way that is less messy, that's easier on my hands, that allows for more accommodations. And don't worry, like I said, we're gonna go to the desktop and take a look at all these things. No, now that I got the belly band off, I can't get it back on. And a lot of these, this was kind of a splurge. A lot of these are things that I have been thinking about getting for a really, really, really long time and kind of held off because traditionally during the month of October, I would do Lilliputian Living, which is an 8-year-long challenge. I'm not doing Lilliputian Living this year. I'm doing a variant on it that allows for more flexibility, but it was done, I always did it the same way because I would compile them into volumes. So it was done in the Strathmore Mixed Media Cotton Rag 9x12 sketchbook. I love those, by the way. I really do recommend them. Those are a joy to draw and ink on. They were, except for the second year, they were always inked with a Sakura Pigma FB and a Pentel brush pen. They were always sketched the day before and then inked the day after. So every day I was doing a sketch and doing inks, but I would try to work one day ahead in case I had a migraine or I got sick or something. It was for at least 31 days. So it was it always consumed my October. This year I did the sketches well in advance. I actually have been picking on the Little Artist series digitally for like 2 years now. So most of the sketching is already done. I am gonna print it out on Strathmore's mixed media cotton paper, but this time on individual cutouts that seem heavier than what was in the sketchbook. They're the same grade of Strathmore paper, so I don't understand why the weights are different, but they are. So it's a sturdier paper. I would love to try playing around with flexi fountain pens and dip pins on that because I miss doing that. So that way, hopefully I can spend more time correcting the art and more time inking the art and make something really beautiful. Not that Lilliputian Living wasn't, but just the time constraints of drawing and inking something every day while still working, while still recording for YouTube, while still doing housework was a challenge for 8 years that only got harder as my health got worse. So I'm hoping that by having done most, like 90% of the heavy work drawing in advance, it will be easier for me. So I'm excited about it. I also re-upped my watercolor paper. So I bought a couple of pads of Arches. So I really like Arches. It's a good workhorse paper. My favorite watercolor paper for non-comic art is Canson Moulin de Roy. And I know I said that wrong. I'll never be able to say it right. It's got that special French way. The Louisiana in me is deep, and that means I speak trash French. Anyway, trash French that will never allow me to speak good French. My favorite paper is Canson Moulin de Roy, and I get the like weird size. It's like 16 by 14, something like that, with some centimeters involved there. Okay, I don't remember off the top of my head, but that's my favorite paper to paint on for illustrations, but it's expensive. It can be hard to get, and there was a time where Canson wasn't manufacturing it. So I have a stock of it, and I do regularly use it. If you like my Louisiana Food series, that's what I do my Louisiana Food series on. But for field tests and for illustrations that I'm going to ink and then paint, or for Lilliputian Living illustrations that I want to paint, I like to use Arches. It's a good paper. Good to me. I haven't had the same problems that some people have, but I also buy the tape bound pads. So it's a good paper at a fair enough price. So if you've watched any of my watercolor reviews, when I do the field test, I use the Arches now. I used to use Stonehenge, but my printer doesn't play nice with Stonehenge. And then finally, because I am such a Canson person and I use Canson XL so much, my watercolor sketchbooks for funsies are Canson XL. I did my start to finish watercolor series on Canson XL. I think it's a fun paper that's very affordable and accessible. I did want to try out Canson Graduate in the same size that I normally get because I know Canson, well, if you watch the NAMTA videos from a couple years ago, we actually talked to a rep who distributes Canson. So I'll give you the skinny on Graduate in those videos. So I recommend that you check those out because it has been a couple years. But I find that Canson is a little easier to find at like places like Walmart, right? Places that are not art supply stores than XL. I don't really know why. I like XL. I think XL is a great watercolor sketchbook. But I wanted to try Canson and maybe even compare like, I do have some old Heritage Lacrel from Canson. I don't think that's a fair comparison, but I'd love to do like XL Graduate and then another Canson watercolor paper to talk about like the pros and the cons of those products. I thought I got another Kuretake nib holder because I have two. I love them. They are very comfortable on the hand. It seems like I did not. Obviously, I spent enough money. Just for the sake of transparency and not just for transparency. Do they not have the prices? Do they not have the final total on here? Oh, Blick. It does not have the prices on here. I was gonna give you guys the total because it is a hefty total. A lot of these are pretty expensive, and a lot of these, while I bought them for my own enjoyment and because I've been interested in them and because I miss traditional inking, I am going to talk about them on the channel with you guys because of course I'm going to talk about them on the channel with you guys. Why wouldn't I share fun art supplies with you? So I am going to go bring most of these. I'll bring all of these to the tabletop. This is not meant to be a review of these things because again, I want to give them the time they deserve and also like give my budget a break because some of these are pretty expensive. I need to make some videos with them. Then also I need like a chance to like sit down and play with them and explore them on my own time. But I'm going to bring them over to the desktop so you guys can see them. That's a full desk. Okay, so I do need to actually open all of these and put these with my class set. I am not going to do that on camera. This is your typical Speedball nib holder. So it's not going to hold the super tiny crow quills. Kuretake's nib holders will hold both larger nibs and crow quills. This is just kind of an inexpensive plastic holder that holds like G nibs or like Speedball larger nibs, like their inking nibs. I talk a lot about nibs here on the channel, so if you're interested, I don't want to like info dump you guys, but if you guys are interested, I'll be sure to like link those videos for you guys. But anyway, it's a pretty standard size holder. I like them because they are a little more comfortable in the hand. Also, they're less expensive than my beloved Kuretake grips. So they're fine for like a classroom use. They're also fairly easy to clean, which, believe it or not, when you're teaching inking, people will get ink like all over everything. And look, that just happens. Okay, sometimes you spill a bottle of ink, but you know, it's easier to clean. So as a teacher, it's easier for me to have for classroom use. So the Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star, this is a waterproof ink, so you could watercolor on top of it. I also like that it has a matte finish, so it's not a glossy ink, which means for me, it tends to scan better. The glossy inks will sometimes like pick up the light of the scanner and reflect it, and that can cause like dead spots. This is not for fountain pens. This is for dip pens or brushes. It's probably also not for refillable pens either because it's an India ink. The particle size will clog it, but I happen to really like Black Star. Like I said, I never work with it straight from the bottle like this. I usually decant it into like dinky dips or small bottles like this. That way we're wasting less, there's less spoilage, and if it spills, it's a smaller spill. With this big bottle of Blick waterproof India ink, this is for the class when I thought I was teaching 2 classes. I guess I should have waited, but I didn't know if it'd be out of stock because of people buying stuff for Inktober. Anyway, I'm going to decant this into individual little bottles for the class to use rather than them, and I'm going to do that in advance rather than them messing around with like a big bottle of waterproof India ink. So there are a couple of nibs in here. There is the Brause Rose, and then there is this much tinier one. This will still work in a Speedball holder if you guys are curious. And this is like a very, very flexy nib that's good for like super fine lines. I am like 99% sure that when I was demonstrating different inking nibs, because I live near Paper and Ink Arts in Nashville, highly recommend them by the way, but I could just go and pick up like one of each of like 10 different nibs. I was paying for them, to be fair. It wasn't like we had a deal, and that's okay. I'm just saying. People often think I get like sent stuff for free all the time, or like people are always giving me stuff. That is not the case, which is why I'm like trying to make it clear here. I'm just a woman with a shopping problem. Anyway, I used to enjoy trying out different nibs because that's how you figure out what you like, and you know, inking for you guys here on YouTube so you guys could see if they would be a good fit for you. Those videos look awful at this point. My recording was terrible back then, but I think they do still have like some validity in helping you figure out, you know, what nibs are a good fit for you, which are not. So we have a few Tom Studio products here. I have been aware of them for a while. I am so susceptible to Instagram ads, if you guys can't tell. So this is the Lumos Pro Duo. It is a refillable creative pen. So you can have two sides. And my thought process for this is I use the Sakura Pigment FB to death. I use those like literally every day. And I also like using Sakura microns for certain subjects. Like recently I recorded a video and taught a class, and I actually have the second of that class coming up this week on doing city silhouettes, like how to take your reference photos of your city. I did New Orleans, and turn it into like a silhouette that you can do cut out of vinyl, or you can do a bookmark with, or you can do a postcard with, or, you know, like it's a silhouette. It's cute. You could do a tattoo if you really want to. And I was using my Micron 0.8, and I do tend to go through microns a lot. So I was kind of thinking about, like, because Copic used to sell the refillable Copic multiliners, and I was using those for a really long time, and then they stopped selling the refill inks, and then they stopped selling the refill nibs. And quite frankly, I was wasting as much plastic with those as I would have if I was just buying microns, because the refill inks come in like a plastic holder. So it has 11 replaceable Japanese-made tips, 1 reusable reservoir. So I think it's okay. So these have like a cotton wick to them. And then it also came with a bottle of their fountain pen ink, which I'm not complaining. I've never used their fountain pen ink. What I was thinking of is I tend to like pigment-based fountain pen inks because they're waterproof. In fact, I did a whole series on waterproof fountain pen inks here on the channel back in the day. And I just want to show you guys this because we are going to do a video where we actually talk about it. But there's our little fountain pen ink, and there's our refill tips. And then here is our beautiful aluminum inking pen. Okay, this is gonna, okay, I'm confused. Oh, you know what? You probably screw the tips in. I don't know. I have to read the instructions. This is not. It's beautifully machined. Like, whatever I'm gonna say, it is beautifully machined. It has O-ring gaskets. It feels really nice. Metal. So I have a thing here on the channel about not using metal drafting pins because they wreck your hands. I will be popping at least one gummy grip on this at some point. I'm sure some of you guys are gonna be disappointed to hear that. I am gonna need to read the instructions. So this is gonna be, obviously this is going to be its own video. I also got the full tip set because I really want either the 0.5 or the 0.8 on one side, and then I want the brush on the other side. And I think the brush doesn't come. That was smart, Becca. I think the brush doesn't come with the basic set. And since the kind of inking I do is really like brush pen reliant, because I love those flexy lines, wanted to make sure I had that. Let's see, does it say on here on the outside? And you can also use it with, they say any color fountain pen ink. They don't say if it works with pigment-based fountain pen inks, which are formulated to be used with fountain pens. So that's what I'm kind of curious about, because I've got some favorites and I have some already. So I'm kind of hoping I could theoretically either fill this with Sailor Storia ink, or I could fit, which is like beautiful color pigment inks. And those might not even be on the market anymore, but I love them. And I like an excuse to use them. Or like platinum, or maybe even Sailor's. Sailor has some like black inks that are like a black and blue, a black and gray. Some beautiful inks like that, which I feel like would just be like so perfect if I can get it to work. So that's where I'm thinking of with that. And kind of the same thing with their fountain pen. So this is also one I'm going to talk about more. And I don't want to get into it today because, again, this is probably I might do them as separate videos. Y'all don't seem to like the hour-long videos, and we're already cruising for a bruising with an hour-long video here. Yee. So this is supposed to have a really flexy nib. And it'll be really interesting to compare this to my other fountain pens. Maybe that'll force me to clean them out. And this is, oh, perfect. Okay, so it's a cartridge-based system. Perfect. That's what I'm more familiar with than like I was hoping it wouldn't be one of those like refillable wicks. the long, awkward screwing it together. But that will be exciting. And then kind of on the same sort of note, but allowing us to start to transition. So this is a Sailor Hocoro. I don't have video of this because my friend and I were tired and it was the end of the day, but we hung out at like both the Itoya and the Sailor booth. Oh, come on, Sailor. Where is it hiding? Where is the... There we go. Okay, so it's just a little dip pen. So it is not a fountain pen. It does not have any kind of a cartridge. It is... Ooh, way to throw that around. It is literally just you dip it and go. But again, I'm used to working with G-nibs and crow quills, so that's not really an unusual thing for me. And while I love G-nibs and crow quills and other types of pointed pens, sometimes you want to draw with something that has some flex, but it also doesn't have that point that's going to catch on your paper. So my thought process was, well, I like watercolor paper, and I use the Sailor Pigment FB on watercolor paper. Something that isn't as pointed might work perfectly for doing like dip pen style inking, but on a paper that is very fragile and prone to tearing. So that was kind of my line of thought with the Hocoro. And then we're going to start with the Kakimori metal nib because I have been thinking about this for a really long time. And I think it should work with the Sailor holder because I opted not to buy the $30 Kakimori holder because I was like, that's a lot of money, especially if it's going to work with my existing nib holders. And I'm going to have to clean all these with like rubbing alcohol. Ooh, that's a brass nib. That is a heavy nib. Please, 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 please. No. Yes, but it doesn't actually want to stay. I will see if it fits better in my Kuretake one because that has more of like a friction fit going on. I was hoping to save myself 30 bucks. At least it gives me something to talk about with you guys, right? Gives me an excuse to pull out some of my inking class stuff. So my nib collection, try to keep them organized because I'm a dork. And then this is like my workhorse nibs, including a caged G nib. Gently pull that out. I really just want to see, please work. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. It does feel like it's a lot tighter in there. I'm not sure if it'll work. Oh, yeah, I have no idea. That's what you get for trying to save yourself 30 bucks. You don't. You don't. I tried. And in the full video, I'm going to make sure to have to mention that too. Because I do think that is important information to know. And quite frankly, Blick might have said that. St. Louis Art Supply might have said that ahead of time. And I might have just wishful thinking myself into like, well, I'll see if it works before I buy an expensive nib holder. And the Colorverse one is fairly similar. So these all have like this really cool, they have like a reservoir and then they have this fluting. So theoretically it should hold a really deep fill. Work, 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 please work. Will you work? Will you work? It's loose in the Speedball one too. If they are not the same size, like if I can get away with just getting one holder and using it for both of them, I would still be kind of sad because like I don't want to have to buy a specialty holder. That's one of the reasons I didn't get one of these nibs. These nibs are expensive, by the way, but they're brass. And you know, honestly, if you take good care of your nibs will last forever. You can see they're similar, but not the same. They do look to be about the same size though. So I might just get whichever nib holder is the cheaper of the two and use that. But these are supposed to basically hold your color forever. So kind of like a caged nib, like I just showed you that. And y'all remind me when I'm doing the videos about these because, you know, that's cool stuff to talk about with you guys is caged nibs. That's when somebody welds a spring onto a nib. And they're very cool. I like caged nibs. I have a couple. You got to keep them really clean. Not that that is a problem. Just something to know. It's like having a pet. You gotta take good care of it. And this is made in Korea rather than made in Japan. So I have a feeling I'm going to do the Colorverse and the Kakimori in the same video. I was hoping it would work with my nib holders. And then we have the Colorex markers. These are going to get their own video. Sorry. And we have the animals workbook. So this will be its own thing. What I am the most curious about is who is printing this for you, because I love the concept. And then, you know, arches and Canson, right? Hey, if you know of, okay, so we have Canson XL, we have Canson Graduate. If you can think of like the next step up, kind of like, you know, how Strathmore does the different 300 series, 400 series, 500 series. If you can think of who's the next step up for Canson, if it's, I know they distribute, they may even manufacture arches at this point. So if it's arches, cool beans. If it's not arches, also cool beans. If you know who the next step is up, let me know in the comments, because that's how I want to do the video. Is I want to do XL, Graduate, and then whatever the next step is. I hate to paint the same thing 3 times because that's kind of boring. Maybe I'll do a series of illustrations, and that way we can kind of compare how the papers handle, the pros and cons, and whether or not it's worth your money to buy which one. Because like I said, I like Canson XL. I use Canson XL all the time. It is not a cotton rag watercolor paper. It's not going to handle like a cotton rag watercolor paper. I don't want it to handle like cotton rag watercolor paper, because I like the properties that it has uniquely, and I like the price point. So I think that there's room for all 3, but it's nice to know what your options are, and you know, dang it, if it's worth your money. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I am so excited about inking this year. I miss, not that brush inking and brush pen inking are not traditional inking, but like I miss dip pens. There's something really calming and meditative about inking with dip pens, especially if you're not trying to rush and get a thing done every single day while doing other things. So I'm like really excited to try and get back into it. I miss the heck out of it, and I look forward to sharing that with you guys, you know, hopefully soon. So yeah, I'm going to turn this over now to Becca, who looks like she fell out of the labyrinth. I hope you guys found this art supply haul entertaining. Generally, I don't really do hauls or haul videos anymore because I'm kind of trying to work myself away from mass consumption videos. But since I was kind of indulging and trying out a bunch of different inking things because I really want to get back into that and I really miss it, I figured I might as well share it with you guys that you guys might find it entertaining. Most of my art supply shopping is, there's like 4 or 5 things I need. We make a trip, 30 minutes, David's Art Supply. We go get mochi donuts. We make a bit of a date of it. We come home. That's most of the vast majority of my art supply shopping is supporting my favorite local business, keeping it in my community, and coming back here. But it's not so interesting to watch me buy refill, like, you know, 5 Zen art brushes all the same size because I need them for a class that I'm teaching, and some more watercolor paper, and like maybe 1 replacement Winsor Newton tube. Like, it's not, I know it's not as entertaining to watch people, you know, replace commonly used consumables, but that is most of my art supply shopping. That is most artists' art supply shopping. Haul videos really should not be the norm. I also know that sometimes a haul video is a company sending an artist a bunch of things. When that happens for me, I do always try to be like very clear to you guys that like, this isn't actually a haul. This was sent to me. This was sent care of. I did not pay for these supplies. I cannot review these supplies, but I can talk about these supplies. I can review all these. I paid for these. This is all blood, sweat, and tears. This is all teaching money right here, and Patreon money. But I want to make it clear that like hauls should not be, I mean, there are people who live far away from art supply stores, and that makes sense when you're buying a bunch of things. Everything but the arches were all things I can't get at my local art supply store, or they don't always have it. Like, they're often sold out of Black Star, and I just don't have the luxury of time necessarily to wait for it to come in. So I'm not judging people who do hauls. I have done hauls myself. This is clearly basically a haul. I just want to say, for like normal people out there, hauls are not a normal part of art supply shopping. In fact, for me, and I am only speaking about me, hauls are sometimes a symptom of me being depressed, me being anxious, me seeking dopamine in the form of fun art supplies, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to like wean myself away from that kind of thinking and that kind of shopping, and more so heavily researching the things before I buy them, which was most of the things here on the table, believe it or not, are things that I have been thinking about for a significant amount of time before I finally bought them. And just kind of waiting to do that. Mostly because some of them are pretty expensive and it can be hard to justify. And I've been spending time waiting to see if they were gonna go on sale and waiting to see if I would get a coupon from Blick or anything that might kind of mitigate the costs of those things. So I just felt like, for transparency's sake, it's important to like denormalize hauls and denormalize spending a lot of money all in one go impulsively. It's something I definitely do, and it's something I'm trying to work at not doing anymore. I'm trying to move away from that habit, and YouTube and TikTok make it so easy and so tempting to want to do these kind of videos, because these kind of videos tend to do better in the algorithm than, you know, my normal reviews and my tutorials did. And people are always curious to see what other artists are buying, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal human nature. If you want the thrill of a haul without spending the money of a haul, doing an art supply shop with swap with some friends, or shopping their hoard of art supplies for things to borrow, can be a great way to scratch that itch without spending buku money. So I realize I kind of come across as a bit of a hypocrite, because like, look at all the stuff that I bought. I'm so excited about all the stuff. You should be so excited about all the stuff that I bought. I hope you will subscribe and watch me talk about all the stuff that I bought. But also I'm like, hauls are not so great, okay? But this is not normal behavior for me. It's something I'm trying to work on. But I did want to be kind of honest about that, because it has been something that I've been working to move away from over the years. It has been a thought process that I've been working to decouple myself from. And I have ADHD, so I know that, and depression and anxiety. So I know that hauls are like dopamine, right? And I'm trying to like work away from like spending money to feel good about myself, which can be hard, because as I said it earlier, it is hard right now out there for artists. It is really, really hard out there right now. And it isn't just that people have less money to spend. I 100% understand that. It's the kind of like losing jobs that you guys might not be aware that artists might take. It's seeing like festival and fair posters being created using generative AI rather than hiring an artist or giving an artist the chance to design the posters and the t-shirts. It's seeing, it's losing half of my work hours from my library when I finally went up in work hours, because they may not be able to afford me if I'm doing double the amount of hours, but they can still afford me where I'm currently at. And I am grateful for that. Please, that is not a complaint at all. I'm so glad that they can still find a place for me to be able to teach classes to the public and no cost to the public, because the library pays me. But that is a loss that a lot of artists are seeing right now. They're not seeing the paid teaching opportunities. They're not able to find customers for their tutoring and their art tutoring services for a myriad of reasons. So if you enjoy art, if you enjoy the arts, if you enjoy illustration, if you are a fellow artist, because I spend a lot of money on other artists too, you know, please consider helping. And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm begging for money, because I'm okay. That would be, boy, wouldn't that be tacky, huh? To like do a big haul and then ask you guys for money. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, all of my friends who are artists are having a hard time right now. I don't know personally any artists who are like I might know one who's doing super great right now. Like everybody is having a hard time. Their Patreon support is down because people don't have money. Those kind of behind the scenes gigs that people don't think about. Like I can't speak to other parishes, I can't speak to other counties, but like the parish that I live in, the schools are not able right now to bring in outside educators. So that used to be for some artists. It's never been an avenue for me, but for some artists that was a way to make extra money, was to do speaking engagements at schools and to talk about their books and to sell books. That's never been available to me. I know now that is probably not going to ever be available to me in my home parish with the school systems because of some of the changes that have been put in place by our local government. So it's just a rough time for artists right now. And if you can, you know, a little extra, like a little tip jar donation, a coffee, a PayPal, a Patreon to your favorite artist. If you can't, that's understandable. Please engage with their art. Tell them the things that they make are meaningful to you, that they bring you joy, that you're happy to see their work, because the more you engage with an artist's work, the more their work gets shown to other people. Comments are such a wonderful way to help with that. Sharing it, like using the share button, is also such a wonderful way to help with that. So there are ways you can help your favorite artist kind of keep going without necessarily spending money out of your pocket if you don't have it, you know what I mean? Like even just watching their videos helps bring in money if they're part of like the TikTok Creator Fund, or if they're part of the YouTube partnership program. If you have shopping to do, if they have affiliate links, using their affiliate links as a starting point, because you are already going to that site to spend that money, that's a way that you can help them without spending any extra money. So we all love a haul. We all love seeing what other artists are buying. I get it. We're all probably artists here, whether we are just starting our journey or we have been doing our journey for 40 years now. But like, just keep in mind that it's tough out there, for not just for you, for everybody. And a lot of us do not necessarily talk about how tough it is on Instagram or on Blue Sky or on Threads, because we don't want to just complain all the time, right? That's not our favorite look. But you know, just be gentle and loving and kind to one another right now, because it is rough out there and we're all definitely struggling. I'm not even talking about the grants that artists can apply for being massively down. I'm not even talking about the fact that there are hospitals who used to hire artists and put their art up in their walls or to do their children's center, who do not have those funds anymore. I'm not even talking about that, because I have seen artists talking about how hard that is, but I have never been the beneficiary of such things, and I don't have any experience with it, so I can't really talk about it personally, and I don't want it to come across as like I'm giving advice or talking out of turn. But like, I do teach, and I know that funds are down for that. So yeah, just be kind to each other. I didn't mean to turn it into like a lecture or a rant or anything like that. I was just kind of thinking about it because I might have some new friends who are watching this video today, and maybe the things that I said made you feel better about where you're at right now. Maybe it just helps show that you're not alone in this. And it's also a good reminder for us to go out and be kind to one another. So I was like gonna plug my sewing and art supply prints one more time. I feel kind of weird about doing that, but sales have been really bad in my online shop, so I probably should plug them. My prints come, these are not bagged yet. I'm actually waiting for more chipboard to come in today. They are bagged with archival chipboard, so acid-free chipboard that is sold for art purposes, and they are in a glassine, I say glassine, it's a crystal clear UV protective bag, because I know that some people who buy my things are never going to frame them. They are going to use a thumbtack and just put them on the wall. I did anime cons for 10 years. I know my friends. Or they may put them, you know, in like these kind of magnetic frames. I do my prints through Cat Print. I think they do a wonderful job printing. It means I don't have to have a super expensive printer dedicated to printing my prints. It means I don't have to worry about running out of ink. It means I don't have to worry about running out of paper. It means I don't have to keep my cat from getting all involved in my stuff. So I am happy to let Cat Print handle it, and they often partner with different animal rescues. So not only do they do a beautiful job printing my prints on their beautiful felt paper, but I also feel good knowing that they're supporting animal shelters, which is a cause. I have a cat and a rat. Those are causes dear to my heart. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's haul video. I promise I will not be doing many haul videos. And I hope you guys will look forward to me exploring all of these art supplies pretty much individual, and maybe not individually. I might like do all the pins together or something like that, just to like make it make sense. But I hope you guys will keep an eye out for that, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you guys will join me as I create a variety of little artists and creative types all through the month of October, and share them here and on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. So have a wonderful day, guys, and stay creative. Bye, guys.